Hi. In this video, we will go over section 1.1 on graphs and graphing utilities. This is a rather short section, but don't forget to still go over the supplemental notes posted on Canvas. So let's begin by talking about the XY coordinate plane. Your x-axis is the horizontal line and the y-axis is your vertical line. This is split up into what we call 4 quadrants. Quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4 that travel around counterclockwise. These quadrants will become very important when you get to your pre-calculus class next semester. Let's begin by talking about plotting points. Remember, each coordinate point is always listed as x, y. Your x value is traveling right or left, and your y value is traveling up or down. Again, the left and right, up and down depend if it's positive or a negative number. Let's take a look at plotting some points with an example. Let's graph the point A, -1, 2. So that means to the left 1, up 2. And I'll have a dot there, and I'll label it A. Next, let's plot the point 1, 3, both positive. So that means to the right 1, up 3. I'll have a dot and label it B. 2 more. Point C is at -4, -1. That means to the left 4, down 1. I'll draw a dot and call it C. And last one, I have 1, -2, so that means to the right 1, down 2, and I'll call that one D. Next, let's take a look at graphing an actual function, y equals 2 minus x squared. We're going to use the point plotting method where I draw an XY chart, compute the values, graph the dots, and then connect the dots. So let's start by plugging in -2 into my function. It's going to be 2 minus -2 all squared. All right, -2 squared is +4, but negative on the outside stays, so I get 2 minus 4 is -2. Now let's plug in -1. That's going to be 2 minus -1 squared is +1, so 2 minus 1, 1. Now plugging in 0, 0 squared is 0, so 2 minus 0, +2. Plugging in +1 this time, 2 minus 1 squared is 1, so 2 minus 1 again is 1. And last one, plugging in 2. This time I get 2 minus, again, +4, -2. So you notice I got the same values, meaning this graph happens to be symmetrical. And if you're not familiar, this is an x squared graph, which means it's the shape of a parabola, which looks like the letter U, a nice smooth curve. So let's see if I can plot these points neatly and show you the curve. So my first coordinate point happens at -2, -2. So that's to the left 2, down 2, and I have a dot. Next I have -1, +1. So that's to the left 1, up 1 is my next dot. Next I have 0, 2, so 0 left and right, but up 2, I'm on the y-axis. Next, I have 1, 1, so that's to the right 1, up 1. And then last but not least, 2, -2, so that's to the right 2, down 2. What am I pressing? There we go. And then now I'm going to draw a nice pretty curve, hopefully, I'm not the best artist, through the dots, and I already missed the dots, so we'll just pretend I hit them. There we go. And that way. All right, I told you I was not the best artist, but the shape of this graph should be a little prettier. It should look like a nice smooth U when you're done. right, last topic for section 1.1 talks about intercepts. Your x and y intercept. Your x-intercept is where your graph touches or crosses the x-axis, and that happens when your y value is 0. Your y-intercept is where your graph touches or crosses the y-axis, and that happens when your x value is 0. So let's look at an example where we calculate the x and y intercepts. Let's find the x and y intercept for 2x minus 3y equals 6. So your x-intercept, that happens when your y value is 0, so plug in 0 for y and solve for x. Negative 3 times 0 is 0, that disappears, and you're left with 2x equals 6. Divide both sides by 2, and you get x equals 3. If you would like to write that as a coordinate point, it would be the point 3, 0 on the graph. Next, let's calculate the y-intercept. The y-intercept happens when your x value is 0, so plugging in 0 for x, let's solve for y this time. 2 times 0 is 0, so that disappears. You're left with negative 3y equals 6. Divide both sides by negative 3, and you get y equals negative 2 for your y-intercept. And if you would like to write that as a coordinate point, this time it would be 0, negative 2.